Okay, and welcome back to Talkin Knicks. I'm Tom Piccolo, recording this on Sunday evening, right after the Knicks beat the Sacramento Kings at home by a score of 112-99. This was New York's fourth consecutive win. That's officially the longest win streak of the season. The team's now 14-13, so one game over 500. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about tonight's game because it was kind of a weird one, and we're going to get into what's just been going right for the Knicks lately. So let's do it. Let's talk Knicks. All right, and before I introduce my co-hosts, I'm going to remind you guys again, if you aren't already, please subscribe to Talkin Knicks on YouTube. We are posting our full episodes there, as well as some video breakdowns and stuff like that. So definitely check that out. Joining me are Kenny and Greg Poon. Guys, what's going on? Kenny, I'll start with you. What's up? How are you? Were you in the city this weekend?
I was in the city. Greg and I went to Villanova. Greg went to BC. Villanova was playing BC in Newark. So I stopped by, hung out with Greg for a minute, hung out with my college roommate in Moynihan. Have you been there, Tom?
I have not.
It's the new, I don't know if it's in Penn Station, it's a part of Penn Station, or if it's like next
It's
to
the,
Penn Station.
it's the Amtrak in Penn Station.
All right, so it's the Amtrak in Penn Station, but like it was a very nice area. There was like a nice little food court where we got some food and watched the end of the what was that, England France game, which was a wild ending to the game. And so that was good time. Went to the BC Villanova game, also a good time. And then I went home. Today I had lunch with other friends of ours, Jim and Sue's friends of the pod, and just been relaxing watching the Knicks ever since.
That's a nice little weekend.
Yeah.
Greg, anything to add? Or was it mostly the same?
Yeah, it's just similar. I mean, Villanova won by a large chunk. The spread was only 9.5. I was trying to bet on it in New Jersey, but for some reason they didn't have that game up. And I mean, I told Kenny it was a sure thing. Villanova was going to cover 9.5, but him and his friend were like, "Oh, we're not that good this year." But
I'm not a I'm not a gambler, and Villanova is very much just getting their footing. They're 3-0 since Cam Whitmore got back, who's one of their two best players who have both been injured.
well,
And
I'll say BC hasn't had its footing in over 10 years, so I don't know. I think 9.5 was safe, and we wouldn't even have to be doing this pod if you had trusted me.
yeah, that's true. Should have bet the farm.
You would not need the money that you generate from this podcast. That's for sure.
Yeah. Anyway,
How about you,
that was
Tom?
good. It was a good experience. How was your weekend, Tom?
Yeah, it sounds like all three of us were in New York City at the same time. I was in there with my wife. Every year we do a little day trip into the city. We got a babysitter, my brother Mikey, who you guys know, and his fiance Victoria babysat my son. And we went to Bryant Park. I will say we didn't know that it was SantaCon until it was way too late, until babysitters had been booked, and it became clear to us when we got to the Metro North, and it was just filled with people scantily clad Santa Clauses and Mrs. Clauses. It's a rough time to be in New York City during SantaCon.
So I had a similar thing. I did not run into I ran into some Santa Clauses, none of these scantily clad ones that you were talking about. But like I got to the train station, and like the parking lot was like pretty full, and I was wondering what was going on. Then I got into the train, and they're like, "Yeah, it's SantaCon today, you idiots."
Yeah,
There's gonna be a
worst day
ton
of
of
the
people
year.
there. You're idiots for trying to do this.
But now we had a nice time. We just walked around the city, went to Central Park, went to a nice bar that's actually in Grand Central Terminal. I guess we're just hanging out in train stations. But Campbell's Bar up above Grand Central Terminal, really nice. Had some fancy cocktails and a good time. So that was cool. And I don't know, it was a good weekend for all of us. It was a good week for the Knicks. Guys, mostly Greg and I predicted a 2-1 week, and we said that was optimistic. Kenny, you said optimistic was 3-0, and turns out you were right. It was a 3-0 week. Pretty awesome. I guess we can really quickly go through the games here. The first one being Wednesday's game at home against the Atlanta Hawks. This was a really nice one to win. It wasn't only because it's the Hawks. It wasn't only because Trae Young was rocking his King of Broadway or whatever his sneakers said. It was just a great team performance. Julius Randle was an absolute monster in this one. He finished with 34 points, 17 boards, 5 assists to 0 turnovers. Probably his best game of the season. Maybe the Denver Nuggets is in contention there, but this one was really satisfying. Most of the stuff went right for us in this one. I'll say DeJounte Murray rolled his ankle early on, landing on RJ Barrett's foot. That was unfortunate for the Hawks. And then, Obi Toppin got hurt as well. So that was a bummer. But that was kind of the main stuff I saw. Grimes also kind of got going. His 3-ball was on. He went 5 of 7 from 3. Anything there you guys want to add on to or talk about?
I'll say something that I'm sure we're going to talk about a decent amount on this pod. Jalen Brunson, not one of his better games, and it was weird to see him kind of struggling from the field in that one. And then I think that continued on the next game as well. And he started to find a little bit of something this last game. And then, again, as I'm sure we'll talk about, injured. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, I was going to say that was kind of what I was going to bring up for this next game against Charlotte. It was at Charlotte. Knicks won this one 121-102. And yeah, it was strange to see Brunson have a second consecutive off shooting night. He did finish the game with 11 assists to 2 turnovers. So, most point guards would sign up for that in a second, but 3 of 13 from the field, and he just wasn't getting the separation. It's not like this was a very good Charlotte team. Let's be honest. It was actually frankly a very bad Charlotte Hornets team that we were going against. So it was just Jalen Brunson was off. It was kind of hard to pinpoint exactly why that was. But again, we got good games from Julius Randle, and I think this might have been RJ Barrett's best game of the season. I don't want to, be hyperbolic there. I think that if you look at the numbers and kind of how he's been playing this year, he finished this one with 26 points on 9 of 18 shooting, 4 assists to just 2 turnovers, 7 boards, 7 of 8 from the free throw line. Overall, nice efficiency. And, like I said, the Charlotte team wasn't exactly all that good. So RJ wasn't like getting exposed on defense too much in this one. What'd you guys think?
Yeah, like you're saying, like the most of the Hornets were injured, but you still got to win those games, which is good. I know yesterday the Pacers played against the Nets. The Nets sat essentially their entire team. I know Durant, Kyrie, Simmons all didn't play, but the Nets still won. So it's good that the Knicks were able to win this game. I know I'm not going to take for granted that all the other team's players were injured, but a win's a win.
Yeah,
that's what I took away from it.
I think the other kind of big takeaway from this one was that Jericho Sims became the 9th guy in the rotation. There's a lot of, I think back and forth among us, I think probably on Twitter as well, as to who was going to take that spot. I think we were all hoping for Cam, and, I think it looks like Jericho Sims after that game and tonight might be that guy. So we'll see how that unfolds going forward.
And I don't think we're surprised by that. I think we all kind of figured that Cam would be out of the rotation. I think like strictly from a winning basketball game standpoint, it probably makes sense to have Cam Reddish play that power forward spot in lieu of the backup 4 spot while Obi's out over someone like, I guess Hartenstein's kind of playing the 4 to Jericho Sims at the 5. That happened in the Charlotte game. That happened a little bit tonight against Sacramento as well. That's not a lineup that's going to like be successful against good NBA teams. I think we can all acknowledge that. That's not a recipe for success. Against Charlotte, didn't kill us by any means. Hartenstein was very good in this one against Charlotte, but against, and I guess we can get to tonight's game against the Sacramento Kings, only because we were even more at a loss from the 4 spot after Julius Randle got himself ejected. I'll say he started in that first half with one of his best halves of the season. He had 27 points in that first half and was really just cooking. And then he felt like he got fouled in that third quarter on a drive, no call. He got in a rookie ref's face, got himself a technical, And then it's unclear to me. I guess he just kept chirping and got himself a second technical. I feel like most experienced refs would kind of hold off on that whistle, but we don't know what was said. But with Julius Randle sitting out, we mostly saw RJ Barrett play the 4. And so, that's another look that Tibbs could experiment with while Obi Toppin's out. We should say, I think Obi had was it like a fracture of the fibular head? Am I saying that right?
I don't remember
right.
exactly, but that's what it sounded like to me. Like the top of the bone, there's like a non-displaced back fracture, I believe they said. And they said, he's going to be reevaluated in 3 to 6 weeks, which doesn't, or 2 to 3 weeks, which doesn't mean he's going to be back in 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, it's been working the last few games. Like we said, the Knicks are on a 4-game winning streak. The team is playing well. They're playing really hard on defense. They've held their opponents to under, they held the Hawks to under 90 points. The Hornets scored 102 and the Kings scored just under 100. So like, obviously the defense has been really kicked up a notch here. You could point to Miles McBride's inclusion in the rotation, Quentin Grimes getting more minutes. There's just a lot better kind of perimeter defense. And I mean, with Obi Toppin out, you've got Isaiah Hartenstein, who's a solid defender. I don't see that working at the 4 so much. So I guess I'm curious, do you guys see this kind of rotation? How do you see it evolving as we move forward for these next few weeks?
I don't love it, to be honest with you. I think, like you're saying, Hartenstein's not really a stretch 4 today. They were playing the lineup and they had him playing that stretch 4 spot. He launched 2 threes and missed them both. And then at one point there was a play where Jericho Sims was just in the corner and RJ kicked it out to him. But fortunately there was a offensive foul on the play, so we didn't have to see what Jericho Sims was about to do with the ball in the corner. So it's just not offensively going to work. And then with, if that lineup is going to be quickly McBride, RJ Barrett, Hartenstein, Jericho Sims, that's just there's not enough offense there. And honestly, against good teams, there's not going to be enough interior defense when you have Hartenstein trying to guard, stretch 4, somebody who can actually move. I mean, hopefully other teams don't have that type of person on their second unit. I don't think most of them would, but some of them, I'm sure, will have somebody.
Yeah, and I'm with you, Greg. I just sent a tweet to you guys in the chat, and I'll just explain to the listeners what's happening in it. And Jericho Sims is spaced out to the corner, and his man, this is in the Charlotte game, his man completely leaves him unguarded in the corner, as you just described happened today against the Kings. But the Knicks did something really smart. They had Jericho Sims then catch it and just go right into a dribble handoff. And so since there was no one guarding him, there was no one to help on the DHO. So quickly got a wide open 3 there. And so like, that's the kind of like smart basketball that you have to do stuff like that. If you're going to put yourself at this disadvantage of spacing out Jericho Sims, you have to figure out little ways to make that work. And yeah, you're right. That play that you're talking about, it was ugly. It was like a record scratch to the offense. Like it wasn't going anywhere, and the offensive foul kind of bailed it out, frankly.
And that one thing that I think is worth noting is like, I think Tibbs is trying to get as much as he can out of this lineup, but it's not like it's like Sims is playing a ton of minutes. Just looking at the last 2 games, today he played 8 minutes, and in the last game he played just 12. So like I think right now he's going to try to piece it together for as long as he can, but like I don't expect Sims to get even the 17 minutes that Obi was getting. I think it's going to be pretty minimal.
And you're right, Kenny, but I think that the worry there is like, you look at RJ, he played 44 minutes tonight against Sacramento, and that's because he had to play so many at the 4. Granted, yeah, Julius Randle was out, and that's not going to be the case a lot, but I do think there's going to be a lot of minutes dispersed. I mean, Quentin Grimes played 42. It'll be tough if you're just going with a 9-man lineup and Jericho Sims is one of those. Then other guys are going to, therefore be playing a lot of minutes. And it's just a lot to ask for of those guys. We see some wear and tear. I Jalen Brunson, I felt like may have been a little banged up earlier in the week, but then he came out and looked really good against Sacramento for the most part. He did finish with the 5 turnovers, which isn't great and very unlike him. But in general, I thought he was like getting to his spots and rising up and hitting his mid rangers. But I don't know. I think that one thing I want to ask you guys is, so the team is on a 4-game winning streak. I keep saying it. What's been different, or what's been the biggest difference for you guys? Because this time last week, I feel like we were maybe a little bit more level headed, but a lot of Knicks discourse was like, the sky is falling, Tibbs is getting fired, period. It's happening. The Dallas loss, like all these things. And, they're frankly, they're flat out playing better now. So what do you guys think has been the biggest difference?
I mean, I think it's clearly the defense. I don't think there's any other way to describe it. I think we tweeted out a couple days ago that in the first 23 games, the Knicks had 5 quarters where they gave up 20 or less points. In the last 3 games, I don't know about today, but 3 games before today, there was 5 quarters in those 3 games. And then there was a lot of chat about, the defense not holding anyone to under 100 points at all this season. And then 3 of the last 4 games, they've done that. And I think it all comes down to, Tibbs has gotten kind of back to his bread and butter, which is he has Quickly, McBride, and Grimes all pressuring the defense. And then you have Mitchell Robinson in the center. So like that gives them a little more leeway to kind of put a little more pressure on it than maybe other teams are able to without a rim protector behind them. Because Mitchell Robinson is able to, erase a lot of mistakes. But I think that's the biggest change that we've seen so far, is just that perimeter defense of having, more defensive minded guys doing a lot, being a lot more involved in the rotations.
Yeah. And Greg, I want to get your take in a second, but I do wonder how much of it has to do with like variance and just like, the Cleveland Cavaliers did get a good number of open 3-pointers that they missed. If you look at the Atlanta Hawks, like, first of all, teams are going to have bad games against you. That's part of the season. But, you kind of have to add that in as context to what the defense is doing. I think the defense has looked, just objectively, eye test, it looks much better. The ball pressure, the perimeter, not allowing so much dribble penetration. But like the Hawks did shoot 16% from 3 against a 6 of 36. Bogdanovich shot 0 of 10. Like that's just, that's not kind of stuff that happens very frequently.
And it's very much like I thought about tweeting it. I don't know if it was last game or 2 games ago, but there's very, very much a regression to the mean happening, right? Like I think we said in previous podcasts, like sometimes people make shots, but like the clip at which I think it was the Celtics, and then I don't know who we played after the Celtics, but like there were 3 straight games where people just made a ridiculous amount of threes. And now the last couple games, it's been a little bit of the opposite. And it's everything regressing to the mean of what you would expect to happen because, over the course of a season, people aren't going to make a ridiculous amount of threes on you every night, and people are going to miss. And so we just happen to be in one of those stretches where people are missing a little bit more often. But I'm not going to take away from that being at least a little bit caused by the improved defense.
Yeah, and tonight, the Kings were not very good from 3. They were 10 for 39, 25.6%. But neither were the Knicks. But the Kings weren't even making their free throws tonight. They were shot 23 for 35, left 12 points on the board, which is just very fortunate, I would say. It would have been a completely different game if the Kings just made, 6 or 7 more free throws, and it becomes like a 2-possession game. So, but I agree with everything you guys are saying. The defense has been very different from what we had seen with Fournier and Derrick Rose getting their minutes, and with but to change it up and give a different answer, even though I agree that's the main point, having Grimes in that starting lineup in the role that he's playing, it completely changes it, because he's not a guy like Cam Reddish who needs the ball in his hands to make things happen. He's just a shooter, but then every now and then when he gets the ball, he can make an explosive play if he needs to. And today, when Julius Randle was doubled, there was the ball made its way to Quentin Grimes. He made a cut and made a nice assist to Mitchell Robinson for a dunk, which was great. So he's very shockingly athletic, explosive when you see him try to make a move. So I'll say Quentin Grimes is making a big change for the Knicks.
Yeah, and I think that that's a very good call, Greg, because he's Like you said, Cam Reddish is a little more of a one-on-one player, and I think the types of plays that Grimes provides is just like very quick decisions, and he has been getting his teammates easy buckets, and it's even if he's not involved in every play, like you can stop runs that way, right? Like when you're going one-on-one, it's more likely that you could go cold every once in a while. But if you're playing within the flow of the offense, like Quentin Grimes has been, and you're finding your opportunities, like that's tough to take away. And so I think that has been big.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great call as well. I wonder how much of it has to do. We've talked a little bit about him, but Julius Randle kind of becoming that guy again, like looking a lot like he did 2 seasons ago. Just looking at the last 6 games, he's averaging 27 points. He's shooting 10 3-pointers a game, hitting 36%. Some of those are like tough step backs. These are not. It seems like, especially today, he was missing a lot of the open ones and then hitting some of the really tough ones. But to go along with those 27 points, he's putting up 9 boards, 4 assists, and just fewer than 2 turnovers. Like he's making really sound decisions on the offensive end, and he's not killing us on defense. Like earlier this season, putting Julius Randle in a pick and roll was the best offense in the league. Like if you could get Julius Randle to try and defend your pick and roll, you were going to score. It seems like he's kind of, with his offense taking a step up, he's also locked in a little bit more on the defensive end, or just isn't killing us so much. And that's huge. If he can just be like as close to neutral as possible on the defensive end and be this stud on offense, that is an extremely valuable player. He was drawing all the double teams, like you said, Greg, making the right plays out of them. There was the one where he told RJ Barrett to cut. Like he was very emphatic, like you have to do this, really telegraphing the play, pointed, and RJ Barrett listened, and it worked out. It ended up being a lob for Mitch. So like there's some of that leadership stuff. It was concerning to see him get the double technicals and be ejected, but I'm hoping that doesn't carry over. There's no carryover there because he's been playing so well recently.
Yeah, and he's been, like you said, his defense is better. A lot of that is just, you could see that he's just trying harder, and then it's just effort. And then, like you said, he's just directing traffic on the offensive end. It's not just him knocking down more shots. It's him,
Better
creating
process
for others and making stuff happen.
And actually, he has been switching more on defense. I've noticed that. Like, there's been a lot of times where in the past, when there was a screen pick and roll with like RJ Barrett defending the ball handler and Julius Randle guarding the screener, there'd be some kind of miscommunication. Now they're just switching it. Now it's just like RJ. I mean, because RJ is strong enough to guard a lot of power forwards. Julius Randle's quick enough to guard plenty of, wings. It's a no-brainer switch. Like, I feel like that's something they should have done a long time ago, but it's happening now. And it's really, when Julius Randle is engaged and on ball, he's a very good defender. We've seen the clips of him locking up Luka Doncic in years past. Like when the spotlight's on him, he will defend and he will move his feet. He's very quick. I think he's even quicker, like more fleet of foot than RJ Barrett is, frankly. I think he's better at closeouts and stuff like that. It's just when he's off ball, he loses his attention span's just very short. And, it leads to offensive rebounds for the other team and stuff like that. So, bottom line is Julius Randle's been, these numbers are looking like all-star type numbers. I don't know who has the best case for all, like if the Knicks get an all-star, whether it be Brunson or Julius right now. It's like kind of a coin flip. Just, the momentum right now would say Julius Randle because he's had the good games recently, whereas Brunson struggled a little bit. But and we'll have to see how that foot injury kind of plays out. But yeah, between the defense and Julius Randle and Quentin Grimes, like this team's really clicking. It's been probably the most fun part of the season to watch so far.
Yeah, and I just want to again highlight, I think I mentioned it at the end of the pod last week, like this is the time when the Knicks need to be at their best, because the next, through like the middle of January, this is the softest part of their schedule. We saw them play a lot of like top end talent to start the season, and there's going to be a lot of top end talent at the end of the season. But right now, it's a lot of the kind of middle tier teams. There's a few good teams in there, but it's mostly middle tier teams and lower echelon teams. So if the Knicks can capitalize over the next month and a half, build some confidence, or over the next half a month, and build some confidence, like could be interesting.
Yeah, and just to kind of back up what we've been saying about the defense, right now I'm looking at cleaning the glass. The Knicks have the 15th ranked defense, so they are league average. But just over a week ago, they were like the 26th. They were a bottom 5 defense when we were doing this.
Yeah.
Maybe like just over a week ago. So in the last 2 weeks, they've been a top 4 defense. And that's been what's been kind of carrying them. And to your point, Kenny, that's been the biggest kind of marker for their success. So, yeah, it's pretty great. We keep calling out like Deuce McBride and Quentin Grimes, but the other thing is it's not just what they're doing in the half court. It's also the fact that they're playing offense. They're often like above the free throw line. So when a shot goes up, they're the ones getting back in transition. Like those guys, Deuce McBride in transition on defense is a problem. Like before it was Derrick Rose and Jalen Brunson. I love Brunson, but he's kind of too small to be doing it. So when he's out, guys like Deuce and Grimes are just so much better in transition. And that was killing the Knicks early on this season. We're not seeing that as much anymore. I mean, how much more can we talk about the defense, guys? I mean, I guess like going forward, like, do we expect? I'm trying to decide like what's kind of next for this team. Like currently, the Knicks sit at 14-13. They are, I believe, I'm refreshing the standings right now. I believe they're
I think it's 7th.
I have them tied with the Pacers at 14-13. So whether that's 7th or 8th, I'm not sure who has the tiebreaker between those two. I think I've got them at 8th right now, but either way,
6th or 7th. They're both 14 and 13. My NBA beyond ESPN says 6th and 7th. They're tied for.
and did the Hawks game just wrap up? Is that why they're 14-13 now as well? They must have just won.
Oh, yeah, that is what happened. So they're tied for 6th, 7th, and 8th.
Look, the East is tight right now. It is tightly packed. It's tough to know how this is going to shake out. Do you guys think that this current hot streak is going to like continue, or do you think that like has your perception of this team changed in recent weeks, or is this still a 500 team?
I feel like I always play the middle ground. Like I haven't been getting it too high or too low. And I very much still feel like this is a 500 team. But like I said, they are in the soft part of their schedule right now. So like if they can beat the teams that they're supposed to beat over the next couple weeks and build some confidence, then like that is very much kind of the case of what happened to them 2 years ago when they went on that 14-game winning streak and they won, all of those games against teams they were supposed to be beating, and then, throwing a couple wins against some of the top end NBA talent. And, it's basketball. A lot of it is about confidence. And if they can build that confidence over the next few weeks, like I think they have the chance to be better than that. I think their talent is very much a 500 level talent.
Yeah, and another thing we haven't really talked much about is, Jalen Brunson got injured today. It's if he's actually injured, then definitely not, I would say. But, depending on how long he's actually out for, it didn't. Kenny says that Tibbs says it's an ankle sprain, which could be any amount of time. You see people sprain their ankle and just continue to play. You see people sprain their ankle and be out 4 to 6 weeks. So depending on which way it is, I don't know. But like Kenny said, it's a soft part of the schedule, so I guess they could do good if Randall continues to be 2020 Randall, then yeah, anything's possible.
Yeah. So Kenny, you were saying that there was an update and Tibbs said that it was just an ankle sprain.
Yeah, so Tibbs announced in the post-game conference that it was an ankle sprain. He said he was unsure if he will be available to play in their next game on Wednesday, but that is as much as I've seen so far.
Yeah, I mean that, missing 1, 2, even 3 games, that's not the end of the world here as long as it's not a long-term thing. I mean, there were a couple scares in this Kings game. He had that one really nasty spill where he went up for a layup against Keegan Murray, and Murray did stay pretty vertical, but Brunson came down hard on his hip and like on his elbow. It really looked pretty ugly and it sounded terrible too. So it was impressive that he even stayed in the game at that point, and then the foot injury, the ankle tweak, like that's a rough day. He was really taking a beating, and if the Knicks have any chance of kind of staying in the playoff picture, Brunson's going to have to be healthy, obviously, and be a huge part of that. So yeah, we'll just have to be, because if Brunson misses time and Obi's still out, like the rotation gets thin real quick. Like we don't know whether Derrick Rose is getting the Cam Reddish treatment where he's like out at this point, but it's going to be like, we don't know if like is a guy like Svi going to start to get minutes. It's tough to know what Tibbs is going to do.
Yeah, I mean, I that would just be insane, but Tibbs is just so stubborn that you really have no idea. Like once you're, like you said, once you're out, it appears like you're actually out. There's been games after he benched Fournier where it would have made sense to put Fournier in the game, and he just refused to do so. Tonight, Randall got ejected halfway through the third, and he stuck to his 9-man rotation with Sims only playing 8 total minutes. So it's those minutes are going to add up, but that's never been a thing Tibbs cared about, even though he should. But I guess we'll see what happens. I think Derrick Rose has to play if Brunson is injured. There's really no other option.
I would guess that's the case, but I mean, I think there are other options. Like you could see them putting like maybe IQ starting at the point guard and then like condensing it even further. But like, I just can't imagine that they're going to go with both Obi and if Jalen Brunson is out. Like, I can't imagine they're going to shrink the lineup that much. That's just not enough people.
Yeah, I don't. But who knows? I mean, it just hurts because there are options who are NBA quality players on this bench, and then hopefully we use them.
Yeah, I saw Mano quickly was asked about the possibility of starting if Brunson can't play. This is a tweet from Fred Katz, and quickly responded, "My guy's hurt, so I'm not really worried about who's starting and who's not." So, okay, I like that from Quickly.
Doesn't answer the question, though.
Doesn't give us any
IQ.
information, but it kind of shows us a little bit of his character, so we like that.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I came into the season very low on Cam Reddish. He impressed me early on. He had some kind of clunkers before he was removed from the rotation. Obviously, the Dallas game was brutal for him, but I don't think a guy should be removed from the rotation for 1 or even 2 bad games. We have other guys who have been able to play through their issues. There are guys who the franchise has made serious commitments towards, like an RJ Barrett, who struggled early on. He obviously gets the benefit of the doubt. But Cam Reddish, to your point, Greg, is an NBA rotation player, flat out. Like, that's what he is. And so, whether they're not playing him because they like actually have him on the trade block and they don't want to risk an injury, maybe that's a part of it. But if it's just like a stubbornness, it's kind of unfortunate. It just kind of defies logic. If your goal is to win as many games as possible, I would think adding Cam Reddish to this rotation would be your solution to do that.
Yeah, and I think I talked about it a while ago, but I think like it seems to be a thing in the NBA that like if you're one of those guys and you get benched, then like they will try their best not to put you in the game. I don't know if it's like a out of like respect or something situation, because like I talked about it with Stephon Marbury when he was on the Knicks and he got benched, and it was like a whole drama because I think there was an injury and they tried to set him in and he was against that idea. But like it is something that I have seen before. So like I don't know if it's a Tibbs thing. And I just like to the extent there's any possibility of him being in the lineup, like you would think that it would have been with Obi Toppin going out. So I mean we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean they're definitely not going to put those guys in garbage time, but like I mean, I understand Stephon Marbury is also a crazy person, but if there's like an actual opportunity to like 20 minutes per game and actually meaningful minutes in the first half, you have to assume that, I wouldn't feel disrespected to be had to put back into the game after, I don't know, it's only been benched for 4 games. But
But
I
then,
understand what you're saying that has happened with other people before. But we're just depleted right now.
yeah, and I mean, then there, I don't know. Like again, I don't know the reason for it. I don't know if it's like because then once people come back, like I think he's very much set on going back to the rotation. So like like again, I don't know the reason for it, but I think there's just a sense that it's kind of improper to use a guy that way when you have no intention of keeping him in the rotation. But again, like I agree. I think Cam likely would have made a lot of sense to play in the last couple of games. But
It's just
again,
strange, like,
well,
because that's why you have depth,
yep,
for when guys
Yeah.
go down, other people can step into those roles. Like, and then like when they get healthy, yeah, like that's the understanding. But maybe there's like a Cam Reddish doesn't see himself as that type of end of the bench type of player, and so that disconnect, maybe it causes an issue in the locker room. I would think that the greater issue would be not playing. It's like you think that this situation is better than me getting onto the court. Like my biggest thing is like Tibbs, he tries to wring as many wins out of this team as possible. Like that's always been his whole thing. He's maniacal about winning games, and Cam Reddish would, objectively be the best choice to do that. And so, this is not a tanking thing. This is not a play the kids more for development. This is a team trying to win as many games as possible. And so, yeah, I'm not saying it's like all on Tibbs. There's just, you would think that the organization would be able to have the latitude to do that, to play Cam Reddish. He's on their roster. They're paying him. Get him on the court. We need him. But clearly that's not the case. Maybe that's a fantasy. So I want you guys to like put on your GM caps here. And like, I think that like trade season's about to heat up here pretty soon. We've started to hear some rumors. If you're the GM of the Knicks, like, or the president of operations or whoever makes these decisions at this point, are you guys looking to make like whether it's a splashy trade or a little trade on the periphery to like make this team better, or are you good with this group we have, playing the rest of the season?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what position you would be looking at to upgrade. You have your center, your front court's. There's no possible spot for anyone in the front court. In the back court, I guess. Uh, I don't know. I mean, I really have no idea. And, like we just said, we have NBA quality players who are the type of people who you would trade for if you wanted to jolt your team, like Cam Reddish. But they have no interest in playing him. So why are they going to have interest in playing somebody else? I don't think. I don't see a
yeah,
trade.
I
don't see a trade. Okay.
So I mean, I agree with Greg that I don't see them kind of bringing in more talent. I think this all goes along with kind of what the front office's plan, which is to like build up as many trade chips as possible and then hold on to them. And like right now, those guys are getting value, like IQ, Grimes, Deuce, like everyone who's playing, like you're adding to their value with the hopes that eventually some of that young talent can either be traded with some of the draft picks that they've stocked up, or they can be, surrounding players for a big name coming in along with, the rest of the guys on the team, Julius Randle, Jalen Brunson, and RJ Barrett. So like I think that's the game plan, is like they're going to try to get as much value as possible. And whether that means, potentially trading someone off for something that they deem might have a little more value, like a draft pick, or, something else, I don't know. I think it would be a tough time to trade a guy like Cam Reddish right now that he's out of the rotation. But and at the same time, I think Knicks fans would be very upset if they traded one of those young guys who is in the rotation. But like at the same time, this is when they're getting some value, and that might be a move. So like I wouldn't be surprised if one of those guys got traded for something that the front office deemed valuable for a future trade.
Yeah,
For like
I mean,
not a player coming back, you're saying you're like for like
Yeah, I don't see them taking someone back because, like Greg said, I just don't know where they would play.
Yeah, I don't know if Cam Reddish's trade value is that low right now. I mean, he basically, like Tom said, he got benched for one or two bad games, but he was showing that he was a contributor for a while. So I think he showed enough to not have this sitting out tank his value, and it hasn't been that long since he was playing those minutes. The one thing I would like I would trade for is someone to take some of RJ Barrett's minutes, but that is Cam Reddish, and not just because I RJ Barrett is tough to watch play basketball, but also because he plays so many minutes. Like he plays more minutes than he should play if he was good at basketball.
And I'll just jump in and say that Steve Popper reported recently that right now the offers coming in for Cam Reddish are, second round picks and players on rookie scale contracts that are different types of players. But I don't know that that's what the Knicks want for Cam Reddish. So
I mean, he is expiring this year, so I don't know how much his value is for a guy who's, on an expiring deal and not playing. And when he,
yeah. And I guess I didn't realize he was expiring, but that makes sense.
I mean,
Although
he's
he
going
would
to
be
be
a restricted free agent. Yeah. But like if that's the case and the Knicks have no intention of re-signing him, then like I could see them flipping or very easily flipping him. Because like if he's not going to play and they're not going to re-sign him, then like what's the point? So like I could very easily see them trading him. And then to caveat my answer from before, Tom, I don't see them bringing in any talent unless like someone big comes on the market and then they have all of this stocked up for that plan to make a move.
Yeah, and that would obviously be very surprising. I think like a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about, or there were just these ideas floating around about consolidation trades. Like we have too many NBA caliber players. We should be trading like 2 players for 1 sort of thing to try and consolidate the roster. But with the injuries and stuff, like it gets depleted pretty fast. Like it's kind of hard to imagine trying to consolidate right now. But to your point about Cam Reddish, like being traded for a different type of player, I mean, I think Greg nailed it. Like you'd want a wing. I mean, the wings right now are RJ Barrett and Quentin Grimes. IQ and Deuce slot in as like little wings sometimes, but they are, they're basically they're guards. Like that's what they are. So if we're talking about defending like opposing teams' wing players, it's really just Grimes and RJ.
And I so to Greg's point, like that is the position that you would want, and like Cam Reddish can fill that slot. So like what I was saying is that was what was being offered, and I just don't think that that's what the Knicks need because the Knicks are pretty set, as Greg said, at the front court, and like with Jalen Brunson, IQ, presumably Deuce, they have Derrick Rose on the bench, so like they have guys capable of playing point. So I just don't know that they're trying to upgrade it. Like I don't know what the middle of the pack upgrade guys that they would get in that situation would be.
I'm going to be fascinated to see what this front office does. Whether like this win streak makes them want to be more aggressive, or like, just this uptick in play overall makes them want to be more aggressive in the trade market, or if they're they see it maybe a little bit more how we do, a little more clear eyed. Like this is it's a 500 team. It's going to have ups and downs. They'll fall 3 games below 500. They'll jump a couple games above 500, but like it's probably going to be a 500 team. It's not it's not the sexiest answer, right? And I don't know that like if you're a fan, kind of what exactly you should be rooting for, other than just like young guys developing. That's kind of what we've been.
Yeah,
it's been our mantra year after year is just watching the young guys develop, and I think that's why it can be. I'm not trying to go on a down note here because this is a positive time in the season, but RJ Barrett's development for me has been the biggest storyline of the season. Like him getting better, improving, he's a better basketball player than he has shown so far this year is the number one priority because he, like as of now, unless he gets traded, obviously, like he's the kind of the future, he's a future huge piece of this franchise. And so when he plays bad, it makes everything seem a lot worse than it is probably.
Yeah, I agree with that, especially since, he was signed to that monster extension before he had to be. He would have been a restricted free agent. Same time, Cam, and so they had this year to evaluate him again before making that deal. But I guess they wanted to make amends after having him on the trading block for Donovan Mitchell, and that they gave him the deal, which I was fine with. You got to sign your big guy, but he just hasn't been who I want him to be on, or who Tibbs plays him like he's Luol Deng or Jimmy Butler, that guy he always had on the Bulls, but he's just is not that person. His defense, I feel like, has gotten worse than it was in all three of his first 3 seasons.
And so, yeah, Greg, I feel like, some listeners might listen, like hear you talk about him and be like, this dude just had 27 points, 9 boards, 6 assists, like 3 steals and 2 blocks. First of all, I am positive. I don't even need to look it up. 5 stocks, steals and blocks is by far his most this year. Like, he so rarely gets steals and so rarely gets blocks. The fact that he finished this game with 2 and 3, 3 steals, 2 blocks. That's insane to me, actually. I did not realize it until I just looked at the box score.
After his first block, Mike Breen said it was either his 3rd block of the season or his 5th block of the season, a very low odd number. That was
like lower than Jalen Brunson, like a shockingly low number of blocks. So and steals same way. But and Greg, to your point, like they're just, I think it was Locked On Knicks, one of our competitor podcasts, tweeted that like it was a game where RJ had such high highs and just crazy low lows. And like the low lights they do stand out. Like he gets beat back door. He gets destroyed on a closeout. He doesn't box out multiple plays in a row, and leads to offensive rebounds for Sacramento. So these are the kinds of things that like stand out as whether it's hustle or just like mindset things that really frustrate you as a fan. But I think we can recognize those things and also say his play has improved in recent weeks. Yeah. Like he is not. There was a case for him being the worst player in the league, like the most detrimental, harmful player in the league, period, for a while there. He's not that right now. He's just playing a ton of minutes and still has his defensive miscues, his bad closeouts, sloppy footwork, all that stuff is still there, but he's playing better overall, and we're trending in the right direction.
Yeah, he's doing a lot today. I mean, his jumper still wasn't there. I mean, he hit 1-3, but he had 2 threes, so he was doing a good job of getting to the rim.
I was shocked to see that he was 2 of 6 for 3, because it seemed to me like that he took a lot more and he missed a lot more than that. But maybe it was just because he was very wide open whenever he was taking them.
Yeah. And he shot 2 on the fast break, which was just, you're not the guy to shoot 3s on the fast break.
Yeah, but he also, like, early in this game, he was making all of his shots at the rim, and then he went cold for a streak, like, I think at the end of the 3rd and into the 4th quarter. But, when he was making those layups, like, that's what you need from RJ Barrett. Like, that's the player that you want to be, and that is a large part of the reason that he got to 27 points today. But it's been inconsistent. But like, to Tom's point, I think over the last few weeks, it is definitely like a vast improvement from what we saw earlier in the season.
Yeah, and we said Julius Randle got ejected and Jalen Brunson got injured, so he was the guy who had to carry this Knicks team through the 4th quarter with that. They had a 15-point buffer to start, but that lead can disappear pretty quickly in the NBA, and he was able to do it. I mean, I didn't love how he he was kind of in a hurry a lot of the time. But sometimes it's tough to change your playing style just because you're winning, and that'll lead you to lose. But he didn't do a lot of smart things. I know at one point he just went for it with 18 on the shot clock with on the fast break with, I don't know, under 3 minutes left, and then he missed 2 free throws, which hurt. But he did have some nice finishes at the rim and just taking it and driving. I mean, he didn't have a lot of other options on the court. There weren't many. There were 0 other creators really, other than Quickly and Grimes, who are both secondary and usually tertiary. So he did what he had to do in that 4th quarter. So I appreciated that.
Yeah, when I'm looking at RJ, like for me, I feel like maybe this is just kind of hope, misplaced hope, but like the touch around the rim and on floaters, I think will improve. Like over his career, over his Knicks career, it will improve. What I look for when I watch him is he making the right pass? Is he like actually trying to make his teammates better with the pass, with assists? It's not always with assists. Like sometimes he makes nice passes and the guys don't hit their shots. That happens too. Happens to everyone. But I think his process has been better lately. He would like today in the first half, he was looking for guys around the 3 point line. You mentioned the Jericho Sims one. That was just one example. He threw a really nice live dribble, right handed hook pass to the corner for Deuce McBride's first three of the game. And like those were not looks he was making earlier this season. So I think that some of that stuff is really encouraging. And then I'm going to go back to the 5 stocks he had. Like you'd have to go to, if you added up his last 8 games combined before that, you would get a combined 5 stocks. So like that's just a level of activity on defense that we have not seen from him this season. It was pretty awesome. He was making rotations at the, like when he was playing power forward, he had to be down low more, had to be guarding bigger guys on the block. He was making those right rotations. And that one block he had was that, the kind of highlight one was pretty sweet.
And
So
I did look it up, and he had 2 blocks coming into this game, and you're saying he had 2 blocks tonight. So it was different.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was really encouraging just to see how he wasn't always engaged, but he was just more active. Like steals and blocks are indications of activity. I don't feel like he's just this season he's been very rarely active. His hands are not up. He's not like ready. He's not ready to make a play. Today he was, and that's progress, and we need to note it.
Yeah, and in our group chat, we made some jokes about he was doing a very good job of when Julius Randle was double teamed and nobody was guarding him. But in honesty, he really was doing a very good job when he got the ball in that situation. I think he scored 4 points and had 2 assists on a very short span of time.
I mean, look, that's the Draymond Green role, right? Like Steph Curry gets doubled on ball and Draymond Green has to go make a play. Draymond Green's going to be a Hall of Famer off of plays like that. So like, granted, he's also like an all-world defensive player, but like that's an important role in the offense to be able to take advantage of those types of plays. So yeah, RJ, look, we're hard on him because we like him. Like we want him to be very good on this team. And so, it's frustrating to see some of the lack of effort, the offensive rebounding or allowing offensive rebounds rather. It's tough to watch. And again, his lows are very low, but again, we're on the right trajectory. Kenny, anything you want to say there?
Yeah, I mean, I think just kind of the way we were also talking about Julius Randle and how he's improved, and with his offensive improvement, there's come a little bit of a step in the right direction on the defensive side, and I think it might be the same thing with RJ Barrett. Like as his offensive numbers continue to go in the right direction, I think you might see a new mentality, because like I said earlier, like basketball is a very it's about confidence, and if you're not confident about like what you're doing on the offensive end, I think that leaks into his game on the defensive end. And like Greg said, like he hasn't been even the defender he was the last couple seasons. So I think I would hope that as his offense continues to get better, his defense starts to do the same.
All right, guys, let's look ahead to next week. We've got the same kind of format. We've got a Wednesday, Friday, Sunday game again this upcoming week. Wednesday at Chicago, Friday at Chicago again. That's kind of not fun, but it's kind of boring. And then Sunday, wrapping it up with a 5 p.m. game at Indiana against the Pacers. Chicago's been really bad this year. I think they're 11-15. So they're the 11 seed in the East. They're 5-5 in their last 10. So they've been playing 500 ball recently as well. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of hard to beat the same team 2 times in a row, back to back like that. Like it would not shock me if we split those. But hey, I wasn't optimistic enough last week. And then the Pacers, where are they ranked at right now? Oh, they're 14 and 13 as well. They're 4 and 6 in their last 10, so they're not lighting the world on fire. But look, these are all 3 winnable games. I could see the Knicks going 2-1 here, like realistically. How are you guys feeling?
Are we doing this as a pod? Because I think I made a personal commitment on this pod earlier in the season that if Knicks were on a winning streak, I wasn't going to predict losses. So
Yeah, and these are also the teams that are in the Knicks neighborhood, and these are the teams that you have to beat. But I mean, the Hawks. While we were talking earlier about how the Hawks game had just ended, they actually beat the Bulls on a buzzer beater tonight in overtime. So the Bulls were winning, and then the Hawks threw an alley oop with 0.5 seconds left, and they won instead. So the Bulls are going to be hurting. They'll definitely want to win one of these games more so than usual. So I don't know. They have to beat the Bulls at least once, otherwise things are bad.
my vote's 3-0.
The Pacers are a team that we're tied with, so
Ken,
I'll vote for 3-0. Let's do it.
You're thinking a 7-game winning streak?
I don't think on these things.
That sounds good to me.
Like I said, if the Knicks are on a winning streak, I'm not going to predict losses.
Hey, I'm down
early
for
in the
7-game
season
winning streak too. That'd be pretty cool. I wonder what the longest winning streak is in the Tibbs era. I don't have that information in front of me.
And they won 14 in a row his first year. Remember?
14.
Yeah, that was their big streak in the bubble season.
Who can remember the bubble season?
I do, apparently.
Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, okay. I think we're good there. Want to quickly transition to America's favorite sub podcast. What else is on?
Of course.
Greg, what else is on?
So I watched The Big Sick this weekend. That's a good film. First time I'd seen it. First watch. It was good. I enjoyed it. Had a lot of fun. Watching The White Lotus series finale tonight, or season finale tonight. And I don't know if I told you guys this on the pod last week. I also been watching Atlanta, which was good. And then season 3 is weird. It's like Black Mirror. It's like Black Mirror.
I just assume it was Community, like the extended version of Community.
Yeah, I don't know.
I have to make one correction, so I just went back and looked. It was a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-game winning streak, and they went 12 out of 13. So there was no 14 in the mix.
Okay, a 9-game winning streak. That sounds more doable.
Yeah.
14 sounded a little crazy.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know where the 14 came from. But how do you like Atlanta, Greg? I started watching that a couple years ago. I think I watched the first season and then I trailed off.
First 2 seasons are good when they're on the like actual storyline with the rapper Paperboy. It's good, but like the season 3 they do just like Black Mirror episodes. So weird.
All right, good to know. It's like season 4 of Community. Just gonna keep bringing you back to Community. What have I been watching? I recently went through the entirety of Inside Job on Netflix because that was trending or something. It's a kind of not Simpsons, Family Guy type cartoon with a lot of kind of famous voices that you'd recognize. And I enjoyed it. It's largely about like secret communities running the world, but in a humorous way, not in a serious way.
What are you watching? What else is on over there, Tom?
Yeah, still White Lotus, all caught up, very pumped for the finale. I think I'm going to catch that tomorrow night. But yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with theorizing, trying to decide who's going to die, how's it going to happen. It's been fun. And I do think I like this season more than last season. I think. I don't know if that's controversial or not. I mentioned a couple weeks ago that Rose and I are trying to, catch up on Christmas movies that we haven't watched. We started Scrooge the other day with Bill Murray, and it's the story of Scrooge. It's Christmas Carol, and we did not finish it. And I don't think we're going to return to it. We just weren't that into it. It's fine. It's probably one of those movies you had to have grown up with. It was not as good as National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
So I did watch that immediately after we recorded the podcast last week, and I enjoyed it.
It's good, right? I mean, I liked the Elaine Bennis.
Kenny's talking about Scrooged.
No, talking about National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, but again, like I think there is a certain sentimentality of like stuff you grew up with, because like I enjoyed it. Like I don't think it's something that I'm just gonna like go and watch regularly. Like I don't know, like Home Alone. Maybe it's because Home Alone is always on, but like Home Alone we also watched as children on like VHS, and so I feel like that one sticks a little more.
Home Alone's the GOAT. All right, guys. Well, I got to wrap this one up, but this was fun. Knicks are winning 4-game winning streak. That's awesome. If you're still listening to this, we appreciate you. Make sure you like, subscribe, do all the stuff. Follow us on Twitter, on Instagram, at Talkin Knicks. Follow us on YouTube, as I mentioned at the top. Putting out a lot of content there. And so we will catch you guys next week. Until then, let's go Knicks.
Mixtape.